Hi everyone, thank you for joining the Fight with Teddy Atlas. I'm Teddy Atlas III, and joined always by boxing legend, my main man, my father, Teddy Atlas. How you doing, bud?
Good, I'm doing good. I see you, I see your great face, and feel your great spirit. Even though you're a couple thousand miles away, I still feel it. So I'm good. I've been rejuvenated just by that. Love will do that. Love will do that. I was listening to a song the other day, and it was the great. It was on the radio. It was the great Smokey Robinson. Was a great songwriter, great singer, obviously, Motown. But he was singing a song you just don't hear enough. The one thing that there's not enough of, love. I'm trying to remember the melody of it, but the one thing the one thing the world needs now is love, sweet love. That's the one thing there's never too much of, something like that. I mean, I'm not Smokey Robinson, but I am Teddy Atlas, and I can talk boxing, and I sometimes can pronounce them properly, and sometimes I can't, but you know what? I know boxing. I know a little bit about life. I know the connections. I know how important character is, as well as throwing a left hook in being a top fighter or being a fighter in anything, whether it's in the ring or whether it's in the octagon or whether it's just, as I say all the time, the fight of life. So it wasn't a big calendar. I know that, I don't know what our numbers are going to be. To be honest, I'm always honest. I'm always forthright. Sometimes too much. Some people probably figure, but that's okay too. Try to be consistent. I don't know. We don't have headline names, and so I don't know what the number. But I think the numbers should be good this week anyway. I'll tell you why. The fights were good. We had good. It's like I know that they weren't highlighted and promoted to a huge, where a lot of people would know about it if you weren't a real boxing aficionado or close to that level. But man, I'm not gonna say shame on you, but I'm sorry for you because it wasn't those so-called marquee names that caught your attention that made you go and spend a little time watching the TV this weekend for boxing. I'm sorry if you didn't, because you missed some good fights. Because we're actually going to report, again, I'm very, there's only one way to be straightforward about it. They're not, the Canelos and the Crawford and all that stuff, and the Usyk and the names that are going to bring the people out, where you're going to get those huge views and viewership that we get with those kind of weekends and with that kind of content. But I tell you, people should come out and watch not just our show, but watch anything that properly highlights the fights from this past weekend. They were that good. I mean, one of them was Fight of the Year for me right now. Right now, Fight of the Year. And you had a couple of them that were Rounds of the Year. And it's always a special day, I think, in anything or night when somebody gets discovered. When someone gets discovered, when they discover a talent, when somebody says, I didn't know. I had no idea that guy was a star. I had no idea that guy was that good. Oh my goodness, what's his name? He sounds good. He's some kid named Elvis Presley. Whoa, I'm glad I watched the Ed Sullivan Show. Yeah, we're the Ed Sullivan Show. Yeah, okay? Yeah, I want to get people even more crazy, more mad, And I did pronounce Sullivan correctly, Sullivan. So, yeah, we're going to tell you when the stars are there too. And we kind of were a little bit ahead of it. There was a guy named Baraou. I mean, I don't know if anyone on a commentating team pronounced his name consistently all night, so I don't know that I have the exact pronunciation. All I know is he beat Tellez, and it was a hell of a fight. And he is now, for me, my favorite fighter. He is one of my favorite fighters. And I knew about it before he fought Saturday night, where everybody was like, oh my God, who the hell is this guy? He's Mighty Mouse. And if you followed my son's social media, you would have saw that I was touting Mighty Mouse before he pulled off this huge upset. And you might have even gotten a little something extra. You might even made a few extra bucks because, yeah, we put a few bucks on him. Anyway, that's the way I started. You take it from there, but we do have good fights. We really do. And
yeah, we're going to get right into these fights. You're right. Not the big name per se this week, but a lot of action all over the world. And we're going to get into it first. We're going to start from Australia. The fight was on DAZN. It was Jake Wylie versus Youssef Dib. Before I get into the breakdown of this fight, I want to piggyback off of what you said. And if you guys tuned in last week and previous episodes, we are working on something, and we're going to disclose it pretty soon, where Teddy is breaking down fight films, and not just the big fights, all the fights, and identifying value and looking for some gems. And we started it off a couple months ago now with Hooney, the heavyweight. Didn't get the end result we wanted, but identified a 3-1 underdog, became a 50-1 live favorite in that fight. And you've been identifying a bunch since. Fundora was one of them, by knockout, plus 425 versus Tim Tszyu recently. Last week, 4 for 4, and won a 25-1 parlay. This week, almost did the impossible, 111-1 parlay. And we lost it by a hair. But the thoughts was right. The picks are there. They don't know some of these guys, and if you watch them, we know these guys. And I think that'll show. So stay tuned. There's going to be more to come, but I just want to touch on that because leading into the first leg of the parlay was this fight we're going to touch on, Youssef Dib versus Jake Wylie. Now, Wylie entered this fight as a 5-1 favorite. But instead of laying the 5-1 odds, you identified him to win this fight by decision, whereas anywhere from plus 130 to plus 150, and that was the play. And in the end, it was perfectly called by you. Not only did Wylie win and win by decision, but you laid out what some of the risks would be that he would be facing versus Dib. And that you said the experience, the craftiness, the toughness, the willingness of Dib, where he could have some moments with some pop in that right hand. And he did have some moments, but in the end, it was what you said. Wylie, younger, fresher, bigger, more physical fighter, had his way, was in control, winds up getting the unanimous decision. A lot of fans might not be too familiar with these guys. Wylie more so because he did fight and lose to George Kambosos more recently. But what'd you think of this fight, Bud? And just overall, what'd you make of this decision?
I give credit to both guys. Excuse me. Both guys fought their fight. They really did. They fought the fight that gave them the chance to win, that was consistent with their ID, with their identity, with their talents. And only, one guy won, Wylie. But they both did what they had to do to give themselves the best chance to win. Dib had to fight on the outside. He had to use his legs. He had to use his jab. He had the pot shot with the right hand. That's his key. He's got a nice, straight, accurate right hand and a good ability of countering with it. Good eyes, good instincts, where he throws it at the right time. And he tries to carry the fight with his legs, his jab, and really the 1-2, the right hand, the payoff. He's not a big puncher, so, he wasn't able to, just do that kind of damage with one right hand. But I'm telling you, he won plenty of rounds with it, or enough rounds, more rounds than the judges gave him credit for. They didn't respect him. They made their I was going to say credit cards. Maybe they did. I don't know. I don't want to look at their credit cards because that's going to open up a whole nother can of worms. So let's erase that. Erase that. I didn't even say nothing about credit cards. Nothing like that. We don't know that the judges are getting any special offers on their credit cards. But their cards that they're paid to do stunk. Yeah, Wylie won. But again, I mean, give some credit to Dib. I'm giving him credit. My son's giving him credit. I picked it to go the distance because going in, I knew Dib was capable of going rounds and winning some rounds. Wylie was the more physical guy, the more aggressive guy, the stronger guy. His body attack, he used the jab well to press. He kept pressure. He went to the body, all of that. But Dib, besides the right hand, the jab, and the legs, his defense kept him in the fight. He has good head movement. He's defensively pretty good. And he used that to get him the rounds and to survive rounds and to survive the big artillery of Wylie and to counter back, to have those moments. At the end of the day, as I said at the beginning of this breakdown, both guys fought the fight that they needed to fight to win the fight. Wylie, the optics helped. I mean, it was an optics fight too. It was pressure, it was body work, it was physicality of Wylie being a bigger guy, as my son identified perfectly. But the optics, it was just easier to say, give him the round. He's pressing, he's coming forward, he's throwing the punches. But no, you got to look a little bit closer than that. Please go and get those glasses. They're only a couple dollars in Kmart. Where the hell, Richie, where do you get stuff? Where you go? To one of the drugstores? Walgreens?
CVS for me.
CVS? All right, CVS. So you go to CVS, you buy like 10 pairs of these glasses that are like $2 a pair and scatter them around the house. So if you're not seeing some good, in every room you can put the glasses on. That's what these judges need to do. Look a little bit. Go to CVS like Richie says. All right, we're winning a lot, me and my son. We're going to keep winning. We're going to give it to you guys to win. So I'll buy the glasses for you. All right, any judges out there that need glasses, I'll pay for them. I don't ever want to hear the excuse that you couldn't afford to buy the glasses. That's why you gave us a bad scorecard. Never. I don't want to hear that. So at the end of the day, you got to look a little deeper. There were rounds Dib won by making them miss, by picking his spots. But again, it was just the optics of this aggressive guy. Just keep giving him rounds. No, you still got to land the cleaner, more effective punches. At the end of the day, good fight. There were ebbs and flows. It was a good fight. It was a nice fight. Yeah, Wylie won it, closer than the judges, as I already said. But there was no way. That was another thing when I was handicapping the fight, but I knew there was no way that Dib was getting out of there with a decision. See, that's what's tough about betting fights. You could be a good handicapper, which I think I am pretty good when I want to be. When I see the fights. When I actually want to study it and look at the fights like I used to do for Friday night fights. I have to look at the fights every week. And I say, oh, yeah, this guy's doing this guy's doing that. That's not hard. That's not hard for me to do. But the thing is, there's many times where I say, oh, no, this guy's going to win. He's going to upset this guy. But the problem is, I can't guarantee he's going to walk out of there with the win because where he's fighting. Because of the way boxing works. But at the end of the day, Wylie won it. Pressure, body work, good. There's not one thing he does great, but he's just he's a fun guy to watch. He's nice and solid. He does things right. He does it behind the jab, Dib does things right too. He just does it in spots, in more spots. Anyway, at the end of the day, nice fight. Wylie is putting himself in position to, over there in the UK to get some important fights.
Yeah, no, absolutely. You nailed that one. And just to piggyback off of that, besides identifying the value in the fighters and the lines that we're saying, exactly what you said, to be able to identify the landscape. Last week, Nick Ball, I thought he won the fight, but when we heard those scorecards, there was no way Sam Goodman was going to win that in Nick Ball's backyard. And to your point, to repeat what you just said, there was no way that Dib was getting the scorecard there versus Wylie. You said it beforehand, and 98-92 times 2, it proved it. It was a closer fight than that. So we will keep it moving. That will take us over to the UK. And in the UK, we had Jack Rafferty and Mark Chamberlain. Now, this was leg 2 of the 3-fight parlay. And this is the one that was close and had its chances, but ruined the 111-1 shot. We had Rafferty to win this fight, plus 275 by knockout. This fight winds up being a draw. But another good fight, very good fight, very well matched. 2 domestic class level fighters. Both have their flaws. I thought, not taking anything away, but we're both basic, and that's what made it such a good fight. I saw nothing but really 1-2s by both of these guys. Missing maybe the hook behind it or some combinations. But in the end, what heart by both of them. Chamberlain using his height and his length, trying to catch him on the way in. Rafferty, the shorter guy, pressuring, coming forward all night. Winds up being a draw. What'd you think of the scorecard? What'd you think of this fight overall?
I thought Chamberlain probably eked it out. I'm not arguing with the draw. I'm not. It's a hell of a fight, by the way. Could be fight of the year. I thought Chamberlain might have eked it out 115, 114. I think one of the judges had it that. And then the other two, as you said, they had it 114, 114, creating a majority draw. But, it should be a rematch. Like I said, candidate for fight of the year. Here's the thing with this fight. Chamberlain was coming off of his first loss, right, Bud? He was coming off his first loss.
2 fights ago.
2 fights ago to Padley. We were there in Saudi Arabia, right? It was 2 fights ago.
It was a Saudi card, yep.
Yeah, and he was a huge favorite in that fight. Undefeated, big favorite. He lost. But he lost to a kid that was a real difficult style, Padley. Padley wound up getting a big fight after that with Shakur Stevenson. But Padley moves, he darts in and out. He is one of those guys that you can't look good with, very hard to look good with, and sometimes hard to beat. And I think Rafferty, Chamberlain got caught by surprise a little, taking nothing away from Padley, but he didn't really expect what he got. It was really quick notice. It was like 1 day, 2 day notice. And Padley, I think, caught him by surprise. I don't think he was ready psychologically for that fight or technically for that fight, the kind of fight it was. He was chasing after a guy that was a counterpuncher. And it wasn't the right style for him. It was, and again, I'm taking nothing away from Padley. He fought a magnificent fight, pulled off an upset, and got himself, a title fight after that, a big fight against Shakur Stevenson after that, I should say. But to go off of that fight with Chamberlain would throw you off a little bit because his stock would drop. Because he got dropped in that fight, he lost decisively, even though the judges made it closer than it really should have been. And that's why I was worried about this one fight on the parlay ticket. Even though I went the way I went. I went with Rafferty. I thought he would win the fight. But I was saying to myself, you can't take him off of the Padley fight, because in the Padley fight, he was fighting a guy that was completely wrong for his style. In the Rafferty fight, even though Rafferty's undefeated, even though he's a better puncher than Padley, he's a more physical guy than Padley, all that stuff, he's right in front of you. And he's coming at you the same way. And this is a fight that's going to suit Chamberlain better. And to your point, that's going to suit both guys. And it did. And it made for, most styles make fights. It made for a great fight. And it came down to Chamberlain. He had the right fight plan. So did Rafferty. Both guys did. Both guys, maybe that's why it was a draw. Rafferty used his length, his height. He punched, not Rafferty, I'm sorry, Chamberlain. He used his length, his long arms, his height. He punched kept Rafferty on the outside, for the most part. That was his game plan. Punch before Rafferty gets close. I've been in fights with fighters where that was my game plan. And it was the whole fight. You gotta punch at the right time. You gotta punch before the guy closes the gap. Before he gets over that invisible line. There's an invisible line. And before he crosses that line in the gym, every day in the gym, every day I would say, before he crosses that line, you got to let your punches go. Once he crosses that line, he's in his territory. He's going to be at the, he's going to be where he needs to be, where he has an advantage. That was the fight. Chamberlain, when he got his arms off, his hands off at the right distance, he did good. And you know where he did better than Rafferty? He put punches together better than Rafferty. He did. He strung together 3, 4, 5 punches and at the right distance. But then Rafferty started closing the distance. And I always talk about geography, right, bud? Always talk about geography. Once he got his geography, Rafferty, which was in close, where he could use his physicality and go to the body, well, he had his rounds. And then when Rafferty was not able to get in close fast enough, Chamberlain had his rounds where he extended those hands and kept them on the outside. It became a great fight and a battle of wills. And attrition. Man, you had to be in good shape for this fight. Rafferty started getting close. He started coming on. He started looking like he was going to take control of the fight. You started ordering stuff, you started looking at that ticket and that payoff, and Rafferty was coming on. You started doing a few orders, wherever what is that, Amazon. You started ordering a little bit, saying, okay, we got this extra money coming in here. And then, of course, what did Chamberlain do? He dug down. And every time he got threatened by Rafferty, where it looked like Rafferty was going to take over, Chamberlain just rose up. And that's what made it so great. He just rose up. He just dug down, and he started getting off those combinations. And it was a hell of a fight. It was back and forth. Again, if Rafferty made a mistake, if I put my trainer's hat on here, if Rafferty made a mistake, it was when he did get close. He went back out. He didn't stay there. He needed to stay there. Like, make him freaking get an army to get me out of here. I ain't leaving. I'm staying here. And he didn't stay there. He would throw, and then he'd go back out, and then the long arms of Chamberlain could find him. A lot of heart shown by both guys. I never want to say especially by, but I'm going to say it, especially by Chamberlain, the underdog. Like I said, when Rafferty started getting in close and looked like he was starting to take control of the fight, Chamberlain he went to another place. He dug down. He let his hands go. It was a hell of a fight. Chamberlain's a southpaw, by the way. But I don't think the southpaw mattered in this fight because it was just a straight-up fight. It wasn't like Chamberlain was being slick, being a southpaw, moving to the side, it was just straight on. Where the southpaw really didn't make a difference. It really didn't. It was just a matter of who got close and who kept the guy a little further. At the end of the day, it was pretty even. And that's why it was a draw.
Yeah, it was a great fight. And I think we'll be getting the rematch there across the pond for that Commonwealth title. So I think, like I said, we'll be getting to see those guys run it back again. Before we move on, take a quick break. Thank today's sponsor, Athletic Greens. Athletic Greens introduces the new AG1 Next Gen. It now includes 5 clinically studied probiotic strains shown to support digestive and immune health with added vitamins and minerals. They've also now have new travel pack designs resulting in a much easier pour to improve the customer experience. So whether you guys are looking to boost your energy levels, support your immune system, or address gut health, Athletic Greens is the way to go. Simply visit athleticgreens.com/atlas to claim your special offer of 10 free travel packs with your first purchase. All right, but we're going to keep it moving. Now to Orlando, Florida. Some fights at night on DAZN. We're going to start off with the co-feature, Yoenis Tellez versus Abass Baraou. Now, this is the one we touched on in the opener. This is the one that could have been special and been 111-1 parlay winner. This is a guy that you identified and watched film before this fight in Baraou. And not only did you tell me you thought he was going to win at a 5-6-1 underdog, you told me he's going to win by decision, which was 12-1. And we're going to get our man Bennett to get a ticket and insert and show you guys. But everything you said in this fight happened. You said that this guy is like a little Mighty Mouse, and he could get going, and he could be hard to stop. And that's exactly what happened from the opening bell to the end. He was relentless. His pressure, his demeanor, his want to, it made me a fan, a big-time fan. With that being said, Tellez showed a lot of heart. He got pushed, and he dug deep, and he had his spots, but just not enough. I thought it was a close fight, competitive fight, with Baraou in control going into the final round. He scores the knockdown, seals the win, gets the unanimous decision win. Again, a fight that you nailed. Just want to hear your thoughts. What'd you think of this one?
First off, I want to give credit to MVP Production, Jake Paul. You know, we know about his boxing. I'm not even going to talk about that right now. At the end of the show, I think you want me to touch on something with a fight that he's got coming up. But that'll be later. But right now, he's doing a good job promoting. He's doing a heck of a job really finding and signing talent. He really is. He's built a nice little promotional company here. And stable. And he's putting good shows on. So I just want to say that.
You're 100% right, but in not just finding talent, to your point, he makes tough fights. He's putting together good matchmaking, good competitive cards.
Yeah, and we give credit for that. Now, talk about giving credit. I'll stay on that for a minute. I knocked the crap out of the judges quite often on this show. You know why? Because they deserve to get the crap knocked out of them. Because sometimes they just suck. Sometimes they suck. And I wouldn't mind if they just sucked. But what I do mind is they hurt kids' careers. And they destroy fighters' careers sometimes. And keep them from getting to where they can take care of their families. Hurting them on the way up. That's why I get mad. But when they're good, and there's plenty of good ones out there, I know that. But when they're good, I give them credit. And the judges were good here. They were on the button. And you know who wasn't good? And I don't like to knock them, but no, I don't know who it was, but one of the commentators, especially, too early on, but, and it wasn't tough. I don't know who it was, but it doesn't matter. All I know is they didn't know what they had. They didn't know nothing about Baraou. They didn't understand what they had. One of them said, if Tellez scores a knockout against Baraou here, that'd be a nice win for him. That'd be nice on his resume. A knockout? He'd be lucky if he don't get knocked out. I mean, like, when I heard that, I was like, don't you see what is there to be seen? And then, of course, it changed. The tune changed. They started seeing that this was Mighty Mouse. And they started to remember when they were a kid, Rich, they watched that cartoon Mighty Mouse. They said, oh, yeah, this is Mighty Mouse. And then they didn't say it. They tempered it, and they were more careful. But even with that, they had a fight where it was really close. And Tellez was ahead, then it was close, then Baraou had to pull it out at the end. No! Baraou was the boss throughout the fight. I only gave 3 rounds to Tellez. 3 rounds. I had it with, again, the judges did a great job. I had it 117-110. And one of the judges had that. The other one, 116-111, that's okay. And 115-112, that's too close for me. So I had it 9-3 with a 10-8 round, the last round, where he dropped him. It was a hell of a fight. I'm sorry, bud. Jump in there. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, you're so on, because from the opening bell, you could see Tellez was in for a real fight this night. And what Baraou was. And in the 5th round, I'm listening to the commentary, and they're saying that Tellez should fight maybe Zayas in his next fight. And they're picking opponents for him to fight, and I'm watching it, saying he might lose tonight. And then, to your point, 4 rounds or so later, the tune changed.
Yeah. I mean, fight seance. I mean, there's a guy named Baraou, and if you take a close look, he's doing a number on this guy here. And he's doing a number. And what I loved about the number, he's doing a number on the inside. But he also has dimension to him, bud. He could take it outside, this little mighty mouse, mighty might. He takes it outside. He boxes when he wants to, when he has to. He sets traps. He counter. Oh, my God, he uses legs. He moves. He uses jab. His jab is accurate. It's consistent. He fights inside, short punches, short little punches, upstairs, downstairs. He times you, throws them at the right time. I love him. I love him. I love him. He's my new favorite fighter. And I knew this before the bell rang because I watched tape on him. You know who he is? He's Matias with a better defense. Is that fair?
That's a good comparison. Yeah, I could see that for sure.
I love Matias. Everyone knows that. But he's Matias with a better defense. He's slipping, he's moving, he's freaking Joe Frazier. I mean, he's bobbing, he's slipping, he's coming in there, he's putting pressure on you. And it's smart pressure. It's smart pressure! He's selecting the punches, putting them in the right spots. He's not throwing. He's throwing at the right time, at the right places. He's intelligent. He's covered up real tight. When he does get hit, he behaves like a fight. He comes right back. He doesn't let you take control. And you know what he does? He's got a purpose to everything he does. He knows he's going to push you back. So when he pushes you back, what does he do? He goes with you to hit you as he makes you go back. He makes you go back. He knows when he makes a guy who's taller, and most guys are taller than him, he knows they're going to expose themselves. They're going to open up. They're going to pull back. And when he does, he goes with them and hits them. He makes them pay a price. And he did that with Tellez. He pushed him back, and then he went with him, and he caught him. In other words, he flushed him out. He flushed him out of his defense. He flushed him out of his zone. And then when he flushed him out into the open where he was exposed, he went and hit him. That's what he did. That's that simple. That's what I know someone else ain't breaking it down that way, but I'm telling you, and it's beautiful. If you watch it, you can't argue with me. And that's how he scored the knockdown in the 12th round. That's how he scored. And he don't stop. He's a freaking, he's a little engine.
Yeah, you summed it all up, bud. You said it perfectly. The uppercuts on the inside, those short punches, I mean, they were brutal. But the amount of combinations he was putting together, the nastiness to him, the relentlessness, the way he finishes rounds, everything about him, as you just gave him the praise that he deserves. I echo that and can't wait to watch him again. When we talk about watching him again, man, there's some good fights there at 154 pounds. One guy he reminds me of, I'd love to see him against, is Sergey Bohachuk, who throws a million punches around. Let's see these two guys. Now,
Bohachuk's got to get past his one fight that he's lost two fights.
Rematch versus Adams. Correct. That's going to come up. But if he does, I mean, there's other fights out there, and this was for an interim title.
Is it? I'm sorry, I don't mean to be Orson Welles. You know who Orson Welles is, right? He's one of the great.
Of course.
He's one of the great speakers. Richie, you know who he is. You're an intelligent kid. You went to college. Orson Welles speaks the King's English. He pronounces everything perfectly. I don't know if it's Adams or Adamas. That's all I'm saying. I'm not sure.
No, he's fighting the rematch. Sergey Bohachuk is going to fight Adams, not Carlos Adames.
No, yeah, it's Adams, right?
Yeah, Adams knocked him out a few years ago. This will be the rematch.
I thought maybe it was pronounced Adames. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
No, that's Carlos Adames.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I get
this
it.
is Brandon Adams. You're familiar with him. He was on a lot of the ESPN Boxino tournaments from the past, but that was the big upset win in his career, so we'll get the rematch of that.
Yeah, that was a huge wow.
Yeah. But talking about huge, and back to finish up on the Baraou fight and that ticket, when you say everything we just broke down and you think about it, of course, after the fact, you say, how could he been such an underdog? How could they get that so wrong? And that's where we think we could provide value with Teddy's picks, where, to me, I look back on it, well, he only fought in the U.S. once before that, Baraou. He fought in Dubai. He fought in UK. He fought in Germany. This guy's fought all over the world. People are not familiar with him. Tellez, the A-side fighter who's, been showcased, who fought a former world champion in Julian Williams, who got all the attention. So when you add it up and you break it down the way we did, it can make sense why they could get it wrong, but why there's such value to be found out there.
You're so right, bud. And I'll finish with this. I think we broke this fight down. I think we broke them all down good, to be honest. I think we did a CAT scan on them. But anyway, please no more in the middle, in the beginning, in the end, over here, papa peep, papa boop, but you're out. No more of the giving me punch stat numbers. But listen, I understand it's a bell and whistle. I understand it's a nice item. It's been there for years. I know that people like it. But please, when you're in the middle, don't be telling me, the numbers are even. And then you got one guy winning the fight 9-3. I guess the numbers weren't that even. I just, please, let me watch the fight. I'll decipher what's landing, what's consequential, what's not consequential, and who won the round. The eye test will tell me, but I don't want to keep being choked to death with, the punch numbers say that this guy is 3.5 punches ahead of that guy. How the hell do you even know that? Did you ever try, guys, one night, try counting the punches, just for fun. Try counting the punches of the fighters during a fight. See how that goes. I don't know that it's going to go that well. Really. That night, you might wind up counting sheep to get to bed. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm with you. There was a lot of that. And we're going to keep it moving, but to the main event there in Orlando, Florida, on that same DAZN card we're talking about. We're going to go to the flyweights. This was for interim WBA flyweight. The little guys, Yankel Rivera versus Angelino Cordova. Now, this was a sloppy, ugly fight. I mean, Cordova did his best to make it that ugly fight, right? He throws a million punches, talking about punches in CompuBox. Lunges, launches from all different angles, falling in, headbutts, rabbit punches, you name it. Rivera was cut. Cordova was dropped in this fight, and he was deducted a point for a rabbit punch behind the head. In the end, winds up being a draw. I just want to see what you'd make of this one. What'd you think of the decision with these flyweights?
I don't know what to make of that thing. All I know is Cordova was like a guy, like a graffiti artist with a spray can. I mean, really, and he was spraying everywhere. That's how he fights. He sprays paint everywhere, and you're going to get paint on you. If you're in there with a guy that's spraying paint, you're going to get you're going to get wet. And Rivera got wet. He got wet in a few spots. I mean, again, the same commentators were like, the fight wasn't even no sense in even watching anymore. That just, send it in. Rivera won it. And then, of course, at the end, what happens? You got a draw. And you got one of the judges, I believe, that actually had Cordova winning because it was a majority draw again. You had 2 majority draws yesterday, right? You don't get a lot of that. But one judge had Cordova 115, 111, and then the other 2 had a 113, 113, creating the majority draw. But again, the commentators were saying, "Oh no, this is listen." It was saying the obvious. It was true. It was an ugly fight. I think that the fans should have got something back for staying there. For watching it. Really, I felt like I showed a lot of discipline, staying up that late and watching all 12 rounds of that. Because it was ugly, it was chaos, it was sloppy. There was a lot of arm punches from all over the place, Cordova running in, reckless. But you can't just hand it to Rivera, which the commentators were. I know there were 2 10-8 rounds. It's hard to get around that. But if the judges had the round where Cordova was going to win or was winning, and then Rivera dropped him, maybe it's a 10-9 round. Or then a point's taken away. Let's go with the point taken away. He had a point taken away for hitting behind the head. Let's just say that, I don't even remember the round, I'll be honest. But let's just say Cordova was winning that round. And then he gets a point taken away. And they say, well, it's 2 10-8 rounds now. How do you justify giving the fight to Cordova, one judge, when you had 2 10-8 rounds? Well, maybe it wasn't 2 10-8 rounds. You are assuming. See, that's the thing here. You're assuming that the judges made it a 10-8 round because a point was taken away. But it doesn't necessarily have to be. Maybe the judges, like I said, they had Cordova winning that round, and it wound up being an even round now because they had to take a point away from him. So instead of a 10-8 round, all right, he was going to win a round. Now he doesn't win a round. Now it's an even round. So there could be an explanation why the fight wound up on the scorecards the way it did. All I know is there was a lot of criticism towards Cordova with his style, his approach, his sloppiness, the craziness, the headbutts, the recklessness, everything. But you can't argue that he showed plenty of heart. And they both showed plenty of heart. And you can't argue that he was chucking punches. And part of the game is to chuck punches. Yeah, you shouldn't be chucking them from Louisiana and from, Wyoming and everywhere else. But I blame Rivera for not having a better, and maybe his corner, and that's where a good corner comes in, really important. Especially when you're with a guy like this that it is hard to know what to do. He is hard to look good with. So that's where a corner has to be able to come up with a game plan. First of all, ahead of time, you got to look at tape. You got to know what you're getting in there with. You can't get in there that night and say, oh my God, this guy is, I can't believe the way this guy fights. No, you have to know that ahead of time and be prepared. That's your job. But once the bell rings, you have to identify what's going on and give the right strategy to your fighter. I don't know that was given to Rivera. And I'll tell you what the strategy to me should have been to the Southpaw Rivera. Set yourself and let this guy walk into punches. Don't chase him. He don't know where he's going, for God's sakes. How are you going to know where he's going? Don't chase him. You're going to run into stuff. Set yourself. When he comes, and he will come, and launches himself, time him and catch him. Let him do your work for you. Let him walk into punches. Let him create openings for you to punch in between. He's throwing wide punches, you throw short, straight punches. And you catch him as he's throwing. I'm done. That's it. That's enough for me because I don't want to have nightmares thinking about this fight again because it was that chaotic. Yeah,
you covered it all, bud. And I laughed watching that fight because I don't think it mattered who the referee was. It was ugly, and it was going to be a tough job. But Luis Pabon always gets the assignment where he's in the middle of something too much going on. I'll never let go. The Marco Huck-Povetkin fight just stands out. And it just stood out. Again, no matter who the ref was, it was a hard job last night. But him being it made me chuckle a little bit during that fight. So that wraps up all the boxing cards and all the coverage. Before we sign off, we're going to switch over for our MMA viewers to the UFC. We're going to do the UFC Fight Night. That was an early start Saturday morning from China. And we're going to go with the co-main event first. Aljamain Sterling versus Brian Ortega. Now, this fight was originally supposed to be at the 145-pound featherweight limit and had to be changed to 153-pound catch weight. Ortega struggled to make weight. Instead of the fight being canceled, credit to Sterling, agrees to still take the fight with the added weight to 153 pounds. Not the most action, bud, not the most eventful fight. I thought Ortega did show maybe some of that struggle with the weight cut and sluggishness. He was chasing Sterling around the cage a lot, not cutting the cage off. And Sterling fought a cautious but smart, technical and tactical fight. Again, not a lot of action, but clearly won, which wound up being a 5-round unanimous decision. Just want to get your take on this one.
Yeah, listen, I think you covered it. I think that's it. I think there's definitely no getting around the fact that the weight cut probably played into it, especially especially early on. With Ortega, it just it seemed like you know he couldn't be himself, wasn't himself. If you're affected by a weight cut, you're not only affected physically, you're affected mentally in your approach, in your confidence, in what you can do or think you could do, versus what you normally know you would do. So I think that was hanging over it, there's no doubt. But Sterling, as you said, I thought, he did a lot of striking. He fought a measured, calculated, I don't know if the word methodical is right, but he boxed a good, smart, contained fight, strategic fight, to steal one of your words. He boxed smart. He was quicker. He was better on the outside, picking the spots and being able to, as I said, be strategic, be effective, be efficient, and then pick the spots for the wrestling at the right spots. So at the end of the day, it was a calculated fight by Sterling. And he did the most important thing. He won. I mean, isn't that kind of what's, and isn't that kind of what is, I think, the priority going into any contest, that you find a way to win?
Absolutely. He found the way to win, and he won easily. So 36 years of age now for Aljamain Sterling, but the former bantamweight champion continues to climb up the ranks there in the featherweight division. And he's got his eye on Volkanovski for another crack to become a two-time champion in the UFC. So time will tell what's next for Aljamain Sterling. What's next for us will be the main event there in China. It was Johnny Walker versus Zhang Mingyang. And this one was a fun one to watch while it lasted. Only went 2 rounds. The first round, the first opening seconds, almost a huge mistake by Johnny Walker shooting for the takedown. Gets the takedown, but winds up on the bottom. And he shook it off, recovered, gets into the second round, lands a brutal leg kick, and then just grounds and pounds the hell out of him until he gets the stoppage win in the second round. Like I said, fun fight to watch. Yang, a big, thick, strong-looking guy, but just that one leg kick, bud, and it was all over.
Yeah, like you said, I mean, first round, Walker made a mistake. He survived it. He lost the round big. Lucky he didn't take more punishment than he took, but wound up in bad position on the bottom. Then when they stood up again, got caught some good strikes too. Zhang showed some power, some ability to strike, caught him some good shots, and won the first round. And then the second round, before you get to the leg kick, man, a lot of Zhang just, tell me if you didn't see this, robotic, just like
chasing him around,
not cutting the ring down, not knowing how to cut it down, not knowing how to shrink the ring, take the movement away, take space away, just kept following him around. I mean, it wasted a lot of time. There was nothing done. It allowed Walker, to have his wits about him, to be left alone, because there was no pressure being felt. There were no punches being struck. So it was just a lot of wasted, nothing, ineffective pressure by Zhang. That's the best way I can say it. And some of that comes to coaching, too. But at the end of the day, in my business, in boxing, the old-timers would always say, Bud, they love you to go to the body. You go to the body, it's like chopping a tree. You kill the body, the head will follow. That's what the old-timers used to always say. Well, in the UFC or in the MMA, they made it quicker. They got to it a little faster. They just said, destroy the legs, the whole damn thing's going to collapse. That's what they do in the UFC and MMA. Just, chop the legs down and everything is going to fall. And that's what he did. That calf kick to the lead leg of Zhang. Wow. Just took his leg, took his leg right out from under him. Then he delivered a second one. He went down, and then Walker, the rest is history. He got on him and he grounded and pounded. But boy, oh boy. The last thing I add to this is a saying that you hear all the time. And sometimes it's more appropriate. It fits. There's levels to this stuff. Yeah, Zhang had won 100 straight fights. I don't know how many it was. Whatever it was. How many it was? It was a bunch.
Yeah, that was a 12-fight win streak for Zhang.
Okay, there's levels to this stuff. That's all I'm going to say. He won 12 straight, but Johnny Walker or that kind of fighter wasn't on that list of 12 straight.
No, absolutely. And to finish it with that and piggyback off of what you just said, that was Zhang's first time Zhang went into the second round in a fight since 2018. So talking about the levels, he hadn't been in that level, but pretty amazing to go 7 years to not be able to go into the second round of a fight.
Yeah. I mean, and they built him up, and he was becoming a star in China. You saw the audience. You saw the crowd there, right? And now I guess he's going to have to rebuild that, And while you rebuild it, you have to correct some things, and you have to put him in with a guy who doesn't just give you a false illusion about yourself because you're just that much of a better level. It's got to be a guy that's going to test you enough so when you do make that step up again, it's not so big a step.
Yeah, and Walker, he snaps a 2-fight losing streak, one of those fights being to the current light heavyweight champ, Ankalaev. So back in the win column, back in the mix for the light heavyweight division there. And we will be back next week with some more UFC talk. So that covers all the fights this week from both UFC and boxing. Before we sign off, Bud, one final thing I'm going to throw at you. The news, Jake Paul versus Tank Davis. Now, here on this podcast a few weeks ago, we talked about the possibility of Jake Paul versus Anthony Joshua. And that one got me a little excited and gave a lot of credit to Paul if it was going to happen, because he wouldn't have all the advantages that we've been accustomed to seeing him have, right? He wouldn't be the taller, the longer, the younger fighter in a lot of cases that he has.
And he'd be in with a real boxer, a real world champion boxer, that the only other time he was in, for the fans to get mad with that, was against Fury's, Tommy Fury, but it wasn't that level, obviously, and all the size things you just rightfully pointed out. But he would have been in there with, it seemed crazy. You're going to go in there with a guy who was a 2-time heavyweight champ and a gold medalist? Wow. Even though the guy's, at a twilight part of his career, still.
And you've given a lot of credit and props to Jake Paul on this show of helping get more eyeballs to the sport, but the way he takes it serious and goes about his approach and his work to this craft, that he does take it seriously. With that being said, when he announces Tank Davis, I'm getting tired of these gimmick fights and him loading the deck up. Whether it was Chavez Jr. or an old Mike Tyson, or we could go on and on with some of the UFC guys and the great Anderson Silva at 46 years of age. Tank Davis, great fighter, current fighter, world champion. We know how good he is. Been a top 10 pound-for-pound guy for you for the last few years now. But he's 5'5" and 135 pounds. This sounds like it would be a 195-pound fight, an exhibition. Wouldn't count on their records. Not a whole lot of other details other than it will be in November, and it sounds like in Atlanta. But I've said enough. I just want to hear your take. What do you make of this news of Jake Paul and Tank Davis?
But, and I'm smiling a little bit. But back in the day, I love the 1800s, 1700s, my friend out there, 1700s, whatever. But I love the old-time fighters. They were catch weights. And there was guys like Sam Langford. I know Sam Langford shouldn't even be comparing him with this because he's so special. But, where Sam Langford beat heavyweights. He fought from lightweight to heavyweight and beat heavyweights. They're back in the day when you had a lot of great fighters fighting each other in catch weights. You did have you did have some smaller guys fight bigger guys. You know, I mean, and you had them. You had success in spots. So I'm half with tongue in cheek, but I'm half serious because I've been in the boxing business 50 years. If anything's sold, it would be this. What if Tank Davis, who can punch, who is a hell of a fighter, who is a top 10 pound for pound fighter, what if he lands a punch on this bigger guy's chin, right? Who's not a professional fighter? What happens? What happens? That's what would sell it. I know the size difference is what creates the problem. The optics, the look, the reality. I mean, you got one guy who's fights at 135 pounds, and you got another guy who fights at 200. I mean, just that alone, yeah. But you also, and I'm not saying I want this or I like this when I heard it. No, I didn't like it, to be honest, for the optics and everything else I just said. But you do have one guy who, yeah, he's smaller, but he's a top fighter. He can punch, and he's fighting a guy who's not a top pro fighter, who's bigger. What if he hits him on the chin? What if he hits him on the chin? It'll wind up selling. And that's what'll wind up selling it. The what if. What if Tank makes him do a cha-cha? He hits him on the chin, and Jake Paul, we're going to find out if he can dance. Whoa, 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 whoa. You know, do the cha-cha. That's what's going to sell it. And you can't argue that what if. You can't. I know I get to places that other people won't go and everything else that just dismiss stuff because it's easier to do that. It's safer to do that. You don't have the bows and arrows coming at you from people that argue with you because you did that. But I don't care. I've had bows and arrows my whole life. I don't care. But that's true. That what if? What if this guy who is a real good puncher, who is one of the best fighters in the world right now, what if he hits him? What if he makes a miss and he counters him? Or he jumps up in the air. Bang! And he hits him. Sid Terrace was a great fighter. No, not the 1700s, but years ago. And Cus D'Amato told me he loved Sid Terrace. He said, Teddy, he used to jump up in the air and hit you with 3 jabs. I said, whoa, man, Sid Terrace. All right. Anyway, look, I can't finish without saying that it did invoke some memories and thoughts that we've been here before in a different way, where Jake Paul's brother fought Mayweather. That's not forget. And I'm not saying I like that either. I mean, first of all, Mayweather was past his prime. He was already retired. He was older, everything, but he's still the great Mayweather. And Mayweather was fighting a guy, what was it, 50-pound difference, 60-pound difference, whatever it was. And that size made a difference. It allowed Jake Paul's brother to be in there and be able to last with a smaller man, a smaller, older, greater fighter who's mostly was concentrating on defense more than just offense. So, yeah. It's kind of like we've seen this already in that version of it, and we didn't really like it. I don't think I liked it that much, to be honest with you. But here we are. Here we are. Like Don King would say, only in America. Ha, 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 ha. That's Don King.
Yeah, Tank Davis, but I get a little upset with Tank. I understand it from
No, he's not
Jake's
fighting
side.
Roach, right? He's not fighting Roach. That's got to be a problem, right?
Should be a rematch, right? In a fight that was a draw, and a lot of people thought he might have lost, to want to get the redemption, to want to, get the rematch with that fight. But how about Shakur Stevenson? How about a million other fighters out there that we could name? And I feel cheated just as a boxing fan that instead we're going to get this gimmick fight instead of one of those real fights. The last thing I'll finish it and ask you is...
You're not wrong. You're not wrong. I can't argue any of that. I'd rather see the rematch with Roach. I'd love to see him with Shakur. I'm not arguing.
Yeah, and the last thing I'll just leave you with to piggyback off of that is, could this will this be the end of Tank Davis's career? And I'm not saying he loses. I'm just saying from the standpoint of how do you go from 135 pounds to 195, and then where do you go from there? To put on that much weight and that much muscle to try to be able to move back down?
Well, that's where I disagree with you, bud. I think he ain't putting weight on. He ain't going to put weight on. I mean, I don't think he will. If he does, I think he's making a mistake. I agree with you 100%, bud. But I don't think he will. I think Mayweather didn't really put weight on when he fought a brother. He came in whatever, probably around 150-something. And he was Mayweather. He made a mess. It didn't matter. He couldn't hit him clean. And, and he did what he did. I don't see Tank Davis. I think it would be a mistake if he tried to put the weight on. I don't see him putting really weight on. He might come in. I don't know what he walks around. He fights at what, 135 pounds?
Yeah, he's not a big guy to begin with. He probably can't put too much on.
No. Let's say he walks around at welterweight. Maybe he does. Maybe a little less. But maybe he does. I see him coming in at welterweight. I do not see him coming in any heavier than that. So to your point, you're 100% right, because you're thinking right. If he did put that weight on and then tried to take it off, kind of like what happened to Roy Jones Jr., that hurt him.
When he moved up to heavyweight and then went back down.
He fought John Ruiz, moved up, won the heavyweight title. People forget that. He won the heavyweight title against John Ruiz, and then he came back down. I think that did hurt him physically.
That's a great point. There's a lot of good points there, and we'll be circling back as that fight gets closer. But
I'll leave you with one thing. What if? Go ahead. I'm sorry. I had to say that. What if? What if he jumps up in the air? And again, look, we could knock. We could do this. We could do that. We're not knocking. We're pointing stuff out. But if the money's there and someone's going to pay someone to fight a fight that in their mind is not dangerous, Tank's looking at it like I'm getting paid all kinds of money to fight this exhibition with a guy who's not, even though he's big, he's not a top profile. Man, how can I say no? How do you look a gift horse in the eye? How do you walk away from it? And so in that way, you kind of understand, like, you're going to throw money at these guys like that. You understand the money part, but you understand the part you put out there, that the fans put out there, that they don't, it takes away in their mind from the integrity of the sport, and that you're cheating the sport that's done well for you, and the fans that are part of the reason you've done well, that they've been there to support you and support the sport, and that they want to see real fights. They want to see the fights you just mentioned. They want to see Roach. A lot of people thought Roach won. They want to see Shakur, especially after Shakur looked the way he did in his last fight, which was good, because he mixed offense with defense.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It feels like for Tank, this might lead to another crossover type fight, and again, we might be done seeing him fight real boxing matches. Maybe it's a Sean O'Malley or something next, like McGregor versus Mayweather. But time will tell. That's it for our time, this week's episode. Any final words, bud, before we sign off?
Time? I wish I had time. I wish you had
more time.
I wish you had more time. The great movie Man on Fire, one of my favorite movies. The great Denzel Washington. You guys haven't seen it, man. You should watch that movie. Richie, have you seen it yet?
No, I saw it.
Shame on you. You better see it. Come on. All right. I love you, Rich. I love you, bud. Great job, and thank you. Thank you to the audience. Thank you for doing it with me, and tell your son, my grandson, that beautiful, handsome kid who's getting bigger and bigger and bigger. Tell him that, again, I'm glad he had a great 7th birthday yesterday, because he is 7 now. He is 7 years old. Wow. For all those people there that are praying that you want to be blessed to be a parent one day, and you will be. You will be. I'm sure God will bless you if that's what you want to do, and you want to be a parent. But let me just tell you one thing. Really, it's again, it's stuff you heard from the old timers all the time. You probably ignored it and all that stuff, but time flies. Spend every minute of it with them. appreciate every minute the most you can. You got to do your job. Life gets in the way. There's no doubt about it. You got to make a living. You got to do all that stuff. But with all that, spend every moment you can. Just cherish every moment because it goes fast. And that's 7 years. Wow. He's 7 years old. 7 years old. And reading the funny papers. That's another great one from The Godfather. How's your family? How's your son? He's good. He's 3 years old. He reads the funny papers. 3 years old reads the funny papers. Yeah.
Yeah, we missed you yesterday, but we had a great time celebrating him. And thank you, as always, bud. Thank you for all tuning in, viewing, and watching. And as always, please like, comment, subscribe. And we will be back again next week.